Hey, happy Mother's Day today.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day, everybody.
To you.
Thank you.
I already wished everyone a happy Mother's Day on Twitter.
Oh, yeah, you're on
our behalf.
Yeah, thank you.
And on Facebook on
Yeah.
our behalf. And it should be noted that even though we have said that Cindy is not a user of the Twitter, she did post a tweet under the While She's Napping account. So I don't want anyone to think that I was acting as Cindy on the Twitter.
Well, that's why I signed it. CC.
I know.
That's me.
But I could have been catfishing people here.
Yeah, I guess.
I
it's true. I actually did the Twitter.
Welcome to episode, I want to say this is episode 8
Yep.
of While She's Napping. I am Adam.
And I'm Cindy.
Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
We are recording this Sunday evening on Mother's Day, and Cindy's birthday, as many of you already know, was on Saturday. And like true Rhode Islanders, we had some lobsters, kid.
Yeah, it was an awesome day.
Some lobsters and some clam cakes, kid.
Yeah, that was just the cherry on top. Because you were kind enough to give me some time to myself, and especially since we've been quarantined, I've been home a lot, but always with someone else here.
Right.
So that was nice to just have the day to myself to literally just do nothing and enjoy the silence of the house.
So once again, pre-dad it comes through in the clutch. Well, this time dad it came through in the clutch. Like when I research birthday gifts, I'm always like, all right, what's something clever to get my wife? And I always like investigate on Reddit, like people of Reddit, what's good for wives? And a lot of the responses were just time to myself.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, that's free. You know, even though I bought you a gift, I'm just thinking that's probably an obvious gift. So guys out there that have spouses with birthdays coming up and you have kids, get the kids out of the fucking house and leave your wife alone for like a couple hours. I'm telling you.
Yeah, it was awesome. I took a nice long shower. I didn't have to worry about anything else with our daughter, and
don't text.
Yeah, I didn't.
Just get the fuck out.
Yep. I watched TV and it was great. I didn't have to worry about anything.
Well, I did text you because it was snowing.
Yeah, it was snowing
in Rhode Island.
at your mom's house where you were. It wasn't snowing 20 minutes south at our house.
I had to text you because of that.
Yeah, but otherwise, yeah. And the fact that you offered it, I didn't have to ask for that, was
right.
Yeah,
it's
awesome.
a gift.
Thank you.
Anyways, so happy birthday to you. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. We're going to unpack some motherhood, motherly, maternal things this evening. But before we do, we should get some house cleaning out of the way. First of all, if you're listening to this for the first time and you stumbled upon this accidentally or arbitrarily, whether through Twitter, Facebook, or Reddit, or some other avenue or medium, thank you. We appreciate it. And while you're here, you might as well just click that subscribe button and enjoy the journey of the While She's Napping crew, being myself and my wife. And if you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please do us a favor and leave us 5 stars and a brief review. We have gotten more 5-star reviews every week, and it's really helping us out a lot. So if you can just take literally 5 seconds out of your day, just scroll through the feed. All you got to do is go to the last episode, and on there you'll see the blank 5 stars. Just click the one all the way to the right, and you have rated us a perfect score. Even if you haven't listened to us before, what do you got to lose? Just give us 5 stars. Also, like I said earlier, I navigate the Twitter. I'm the pretty much primary moderator of our Twitter. You can find us at She's Napping Pod. Cindy is the primary moderator of the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/While She's Napping. And
you can email us at whileshe'snapping@gmail.com.
if you want some anonymity to your comments towards us, good or bad, email's probably the right way to go. You don't have to waste your time making a fake ass Twitter account and bothering us. It's quite frankly, if I see like the blank profile or the egg, maybe they don't even do the egg.
Yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time.
I don't think they do the egg anymore. But if I see that, I'm just going to ignore you because chances are You're just fucking with me. So before we talk about today's topic, if you're new to us, we had an impromptu episode this past week. I want to say it was on Thursday.
Yep.
It was about the pandemic video. You wanted to clear some stuff up before we started today.
I just quickly wanted to mention, as a follow-up, that was an instant reaction, which we described it as such at the beginning of the episode. And that was like something that happened really quickly. It like blew up that day, and it was constant what we were seeing, and that's what we reacted to. And over the last few days, I have noticed some people kind of taking a pause and thinking more about it. And I just wanted to be sure that we recognize.
Well, hold on. First,
okay,
shout out to those people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I want to give clarity and credit to those who maybe did get caught up, or like, whatever that phenomenon is that we were kind of talking about last week. And they instinctually just shared it because they thought it was interesting, or like took them aback or whatever. We do know some people who have since gone back and been like, oh yeah, that deserves a second look, and I should maybe delete it from my timeline, or just like acknowledge some of the flaws that I see in it now, and that it maybe wasn't a great idea to hit the share button right away. And so I just think there's a difference between those that are taking that approach and those that fall into the category that I was describing on the episode of being extremely stubborn in the views, and like once you latch onto it, you're never going to let it go, and people who argue about it regardless of how illogical it is. So I've observed both approaches, and I just wanted to acknowledge and give credit to those who, and make sure people didn't think that we were saying that they were stupid. Like we that's not what we were saying.
So I'm usually very unapologetic when people talk to me about certain beliefs that I have, because I like when, there's some investigation involved. I like when there's like an active effort to look up counterpoints and whatnot. I don't know. I guess I'm just wired that way in terms of like being devil's advocate. But when it comes to this video, I just want to make it clear that if you just merely watched it and just viewed it, I don't think that speaks to your intelligence at all, like good or bad. It's just, obviously that's just a sense of curiosity, because this was kind of a big deal when it first was released. Since then, the hype has sort of died down, and I have noticed that the vast majority of not just people we know, but people in general have been like quick to point out that this has already been proven false. A lot of these points have already been proven false. What makes you stupid, in my opinion, is when you just believe it. You just buy it and believe it and don't do any counter research. That to me is lazy, right? And usually, and I learned this at an earlier age, and it seems to be correct, but there are obviously are some exceptions. But usually when you see someone defend something really aggressively, usually that means they know something's wrong with their point.
In the back of their mind.
Yeah.
I still don't think it makes them stupid. I still don't want to call people stupid.
I think you're stupid if you just believe it. If you just believe what this person is saying, no research, you're just buying it, it makes you
I guess I still give some credit to the fact that this was produced in such a way to make people believe it. Like it was intentional on the part of the people who made it. I'm not saying that you shouldn't still have, like, a little red flag should have gone off. Like there was content in there and the way that things are being said that should raise some red flags, that this could be misinformation. This doesn't sound quite right. This is really far-fetched. Maybe I should second guess it. I agree, but I think it was presented in such a way in order to make people believe it. And I just wouldn't go as far as to call people stupid.
All right, fine.
I don't know.
Usually when you defend something really aggressively, really with a lot of anger and vitriol, typically that means you are aware that something's wrong with what you're defending. So
yeah, I agree with that.
That being said, if you have taken the time and sort of done your own research, if you still believe it but still did some sort of research behind it, I can't really fault you. Like, we just have a difference of opinion. My problem is that this is clearly just something that was out there for people to buy and just to sell books. And I don't like seeing people manipulated in that way. So
Yeah,
this is something that once you start sharing this on a whim, it becomes very dangerous because right now things are fragile as it is. There's a
Right.
very unsteady, unstable platform that we're dealing with when it comes to the state of the world today. And this is out there not to improve things and not to quote unquote wake you up. It's just to fuck with people,
taking
and to,
advantage of
yes,
people's vulnerability right
yes,
now, and that's
yes,
not cool. Yeah,
it's not. And that is something that bothers me because a lot of people that I interact with are very, very smart, intelligent people, and I don't like seeing this, appeal to their emotions,
right. Have them fall victim to something,
and
like
they
this.
sort of just
Yeah.
ride on the emotion
Yeah.
rather than the intel and the data. So
Yep, that's what
Um,
got us all worked up. But
regardless, this episode's going to be a lot more lighthearted. So again, if you're listening to us for the first time, we've had a lot more people listen to us. So shout out to people from all over the U.S. We've had people from Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Michigan, California, Florida, Connecticut, Virginia, all over the United States and all over the world, in Canada, the UK, Sweden, South Africa, Australia. Keep the train going. And like I mentioned, tonight we are recording this on Sunday, May the 10th. It is Mother's Day, and this episode is geared towards you. As we have mentioned in a previous episode, I think it was the one about what we would tell our past selves. This is something that you regarded as a passion, being a parent, being a mom. This is something that you've been looking forward to since we started dating, before we even, really discussed seriously having children. So I just kind of wanted to get your brief explanation as to why that meant so much to you, and then we can sort of dig deeper into motherhood.
yeah, I guess when we were talking about the past selves episode, I described becoming a parent as, the most life-changing thing that I can imagine, like in terms of how your day-to-day goes and kind of how you see the world. I think for me anyway, that's been the most profound experience that I've had. And I think even though I always wanted to be a parent, I always knew I wanted to have children, I still couldn't have wrapped my head around the impact that it would have on me and my life, even though, like we said on the other episode, everyone tells you all the cliches. But I think I was always a pretty sensitive, nurturing type of person. Like I always liked working with kids. I was a babysitter from the time I was like 14 maybe. And I loved that role, of caring for kids. And
Which is crazy because, as just extrapolating that for a second, I don't know that I'd ever feel comfortable with a 14-year-old watching our child alone in our house.
I know. I've thought of that a lot since becoming a mom. I think about me
Maybe if
watching
we
those
knew
kids.
this person, like if it was like a niece or something.
Yeah, no, it was a neighbor, a family in my neighborhood.
No, I couldn't do that.
And I mean, they knew me, like they knew of me, but I wasn't like
no.
super. I know. And we went through, like we had a little trial run. Like I would go over there on an afternoon or whatever, like when the parents were home too, and see how I got along with the kids and kind of like an interview or whatever.
Sure.
But that was pretty much it.
So the act of, okay, so not just babysitting, but I do know like ex-boyfriend, they had a young child.
Yeah.
His sister
Yep.
had a young child, so that was probably influential. And
That's right. Yeah, and she was my ex-boyfriend's
P.S. We're
sister.
really cool with this ex-boyfriend too.
Oh,
to
yeah.
this day.
Yeah.
So it's not
so we
weird.
dated pretty much all through high school, and his sister was pregnant and just about to have the baby right around the time that him and I started dating. So I kind of was there from the beginning, from
Right.
when that child was born, and spent a lot of time with him because actually they all lived in the same house. And so every time I would go over to hang out with him, I would also spend some time with the kid, and who's not a kid anymore. God, he's like almost ready to graduate high school. It's crazy.
yeah.
But
People grow up.
I know, it's just like, it's crazy to think about it. But yeah, I always loved spending time with him. I loved watching him and babysitting for that child too. And it was just something I always looked forward to.
Right. So you had these early senses of influence that sort of I don't want to say pushed you, but maybe illuminated the for lack of a better way to put it, the most cliche way to put it, the joys of motherhood. Was that sort of still in touch before those specific two experiences, or is that something that just wasn't really on the radar because, quite frankly, you were a little young anyway?
I think
That?
so. I think
Thinking about having children before the age of 14 is kind of fucking weird.
Right. I don't think it really ever happened before that. I think that was right around the age too that I started teaching dance classes to like preschool age kids. So that was another experience I had working with small kids that I really enjoyed.
Which is weird because some people might use that experience to gravitate towards like a career in like some sort of pedagogy, but you sort of activated your maternal instincts.
I think it was a little of both because I do, even though it's not my full-time gig, like I in part of my job is environmental education, and so I do get the opportunity to work with kids from time to time. But yeah, yeah, it was just kind of like that nurturing instinct that I always had, I think was just reinforced by those experiences and probably from my experience with my own family growing up, you know.
Let's fast forward because what we already discussed on a whole episode, you know, the pregnancy acting, you know, from pregnancy to birth, what were the expectations? So I think we got a little bit covered when it came to that aspect as a future mom, or if you want to use like technical terms, as a present mom, because you do have a child in you, so you are a mom at that moment. So let's talk about when our child was born. You know, I do think that it's natural for when you find out that you're pregnant, when you find out that you're going to have a child coming into this situation, no matter how prepared you are, you're sort of at a state of, oh, fuck. Like, oh, fuck.
There's a lot of that still happening.
Well, that's interesting because I did not get that sense from you at all.
You didn't ever sense that I was like, oh fuck, what's
no.
gonna...
No.
Wow.
just like stress of we need to get this in order, we need to have this ready, but not I'm not ready to be a mom.
No, I don't think. I think, of course, it's natural to be, you know, scared and not know what to expect and all that kind of stuff. And it's a extremely, you know, daunting responsibility to care for another human being, and especially doing it for the first time, and being afraid that you're not going to do anything right and you're not going to know how to handle certain situations and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, we touched on it a little in the other episode about how I am like really type A, and I was like overly prepared in a lot of ways. I think I did a ton of research and I did a lot of planning. So maybe that's why I came across as, you know, however you would describe it, kind of cool or
no, I wouldn't say cool. I'm just saying, obviously you are a little hyper aggressive when it comes to planning things out and having a system in place, and I don't want to even say a guideline. I put it more as like a fucking agenda. And that's no disrespect. You just like to be prepared. Mm-hmm. But when it came to the life aspect, I didn't get the sense of you being like, I am responsible for this little thing's very existence.
Yeah,
you came across as very confident.
I think I was surprised with how much my instincts did kick in for a lot of the aspects of caring for her when she was a newborn. A lot of it did come really naturally to me. And, you know, I felt an instant bond and connection and all that. And I think I was pretty in tune to her needs to some extent. But there were other things that I felt like, for example, nursing, I thought that was like an instinctual, like, oh, it's so natural and it'll just happen. And we had so many struggles with that. So that like put a huge damper on my confidence. I'm like, if I can't do this like supernatural thing that's supposed to just happen and be just the way that you feed your child, like if I can't figure that out, I'm not cut out for this.
Well, no, because I think in the back of your mind, at least for me, I can speak for myself, I'd be like, well, there are obvious alternatives.
Of course. And I was totally open to that. But it just kind of like, I wasn't expecting to have that kind of a struggle. Like I had anticipated all these other things that I would have to, other challenges like the no sleep and all of that. Like
Right.
I expected that. But I just always thought that that component of nursing would just happen. Like I wasn't prepared for how many challenges or how complicated that could be. And because that was one of the first things I experienced and it was so challenging, it did damper my confidence. But I had a great support system and we overcame it. It was hard, but we got through it and we did take advantage of alternatives and, we got through it. But that was one thing that was like really impactful because it was immediate. It is an immediate, very hard challenge that happened right as soon as she was born that I wasn't prepared for.
Canada Dry seltzer water, triple berry. So let's get into the nitty gritty. Like I said, today's Mother's Day, so we should acknowledge in a way other moms. How much? You don't have to get personal if you don't want to. You don't have to get into specifics, but how much of an influence has or is your mom on being a mom today? So like, put it this way. If you want, like in a month from now, we can revisit this when we talk about Father's Day if you want, because I feel like this episode gives a unique opportunity that in a month we have an episode planned that we could sort of turn the tables if you want. I can say right now, and this has always been me, like just like everything else, like I feel like I have a huge shoe to fill with my dad. So like in the back of my mind, like I've had a really solid childhood, no problems. Like I was cared for. I had a great support system. My parents were fucking champs. In the back of my mind, I'll always say, I don't know that I can ever be as good of a dad as my dad. Do you get that same sense? No disrespect to your mom if you don't. Like, if you do feel like you could be just as good as a mom, that doesn't say anything bad about your mom at all. That's just
no, I think that's credit to her.
Right.
If I think I can, mimic the things that she did that made her such a good mom, I think that that's what she would have always hoped for.
I'm just a inherently pessimistic
you always have to be better.
Like I have to like chase something. We've talked about
right.
this.
Yeah, I think there have been so many times since becoming a mom that I have said to my mom, how the hell did you do this? Or how did you do that? Like, how did you make this work? What am I missing? Like, it just gave me, when you're growing up and your parents are like, oh, you just don't understand until you have your own kids. Another cliche.
Yeah.
Totally true. And it gave me a whole new perspective and understanding and appreciation for all the things that she did for us growing up. And I think I am like her in a lot of ways. And yeah, I would definitely say I have big shoes to fill, and she helps me all the time figure out parenting challenges.
Is there anything that you have? You can get specific if you want. Is there anything that you have experienced in your time as a mom that you immediately had there it is, that I can now understand my mom as a mom?
Every time I'm deathly afraid that something is going to happen to our daughter and I get extreme anxiety, like, for example, when she was really little and I would like wake up in the middle of the night, especially when she first just started sleeping for longer chunks of time, and I should have taken that opportunity to sleep for myself, but I would be so caught up in checking on her and making sure she was okay. Just that, the basic like anxiety over making sure your child is safe I 100% think of my mom every time I get that fear, because I remember growing up, I used to make fun of her and like joke about how she was such a worrywart. And I would always be like, Mom, it's fine. Don't worry. I'm fine. Like, obviously when I was much older than our daughter is now, but like she would just always remind me of all the things I would have to do to keep myself safe and like be careful and don't do this, don't do that. And, you're going to get hurt. And like, it just, I completely understand. And there have been a lot of times when, I've thought to myself, like, damn it, I have to apologize to my mom. Like,
Right. Like, I get it.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything, though, that you think that might be... I'm just playing devil's advocate here. So, again, as I said in the top of the episode, I just like to introduce counterpoints, not because I necessarily think this is true. Just it's fun to wonder. You at that age, 13, 14, 15, and you're like, Mom, back off. I get it. Like, I'm fine. Don't worry about me. At that age, obviously you don't know the grand scope of things. You feel like you're invincible. You feel like nothing bad's ever going to happen to you. But there is, and I'm not saying your mom was, there is a case for parents not to be helicopter about shit. Again, not to say that your mom was at all. So knowing how you felt at that age, do you think that you're going to keep that in mind when our daughter is that age? So in other words, like when our child is 13, 14, 15, are you going to have a conscious effort to sort of pump the brakes and be like, maybe I shouldn't like press too hard about being careful? Or are you going to be like, no, fuck that. My mom was right the whole time.
Yeah, I hope that I can reduce my anxiety as she gets a little older. And I think it already has.
I don't know.
Since the time of describing like when she was a newborn and I would have to check on her every like half an hour because I was afraid she wasn't breathing. I've gotten past that. We're in a new stage of life now. And I'm way more on the side of like, I don't stop her from doing every single thing because I want her to learn from it. Like, yeah, you're probably going to fall right now off the couch if you try to climb or jump on it. But hey, then you'll know not to do that.
No, no, yes, she won't. She'll just do it again.
I know, yeah, she might. But I'm saying I try to take that approach, not to everything. Like, obviously, I'm trying to keep her from getting any serious injuries, especially right now when I don't want to have to make an ER visit during the pandemic.
Right.
But normally, I'm trying to like let her learn from her own mistakes and test her own boundaries, and that is definitely a conscious thing in my mind. I don't think my mom was a helicopter parent. I know you weren't implying that. I'm just saying, like, I think the times that she did say, make sure you do this, make sure you don't do that, keep yourself safe.
Do you think it would be considered helicopter parent today?
I don't think so, because you say, like, there are things that I did that I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I could let her do that.
I only ask because, like, things have definitely shifted.
Things have changed. Yeah. I mean, it was the whole, like, I would come home from school and then we would go outside and play until the streetlights came on, and I didn't have to check in with her. I'd be gone for 3 hours or whatever, and she would have no idea where I was. Like, she knew, like, I had limits, I had boundaries, and she trusted that I stayed within our neighborhood or whatever. And I was at like one of 3 friends' houses, and that was it. And but even that is very different, I think, than how things are now. Like, I think kids play together by, the result of organized play dates of like parents getting their kids together, and
maybe
there's constant communication.
Not 13, 14, 15.
No, maybe not. I guess I'm thinking a little bit younger, but like, I think it's just that there's way more communication. You have to stay in touch because when I was that age, we didn't have cell phones. And so I think the expectations are a little bit different, but so I think I hope to be able to have a balance. I think that my mom did have a balance, even though from my perspective at that age, I thought it was overbearing because I was a teenager who wanted to do whatever I wanted. Like,
yeah.
But as a parent, I think that she was completely reasonable in the boundaries that she gave me.
While we're on the lines of talking about moms and how we were raised and whatnot, I have to give my mom like a boatload of credit because, growing up in the 90s is not an easy time, especially like the transitional jump from the time my parents were like coming of age and in the 90s. Like there was a huge culture shock of things. Like things became edgier, music was edgier, hip hop music was a lot more I don't want to say profound, but it was a lot more like there was a lot more profanity explicit like in early
profane, not
90s early 90s bleeding into like that decade of 1990 to 2000 compared to like 80s hip hop of like Run DMC and Will Smith and shit like that it's night and day how just the difference in between those two cultures, right? So when my parents were growing up, the worst thing you really had to worry about was like, I don't know, rug burn or something, or like I don't know, like there think about it, like the AIDS thing not that it's like kids were getting
No,
that,
later
but I'm
than
just
that,
saying
yeah.
like all these diseases are now being introduced or were introduced after our parents were kids,
Right.
right? Like uh, child abductions were not nearly as prevalent when our parents were kids compared to when we were kids or even today, right? So like I feel like the amount of leeway that my mom gave me, fuck, like I don't know how she could have done that. Like my mom had an enormous amount of trust in me, or she just gave up because I was just gonna do whatever the fuck I wanted to do anyway. And like literally I was an asshole as a kid. I would say things like, what are you gonna do, punish me? Yeah, you're grounded. I'm just gonna leave. Like I'm just going to go to my friends. What are you going to do? Like that was my
Yeah, we never
mentality.
had. I was never like that.
Well, it's not like, you know, I quickly woke up to the fact that my parents were not going to call the cops on me for merely going to my friends. And they're not going to lock me out of the house because they don't want me to like be cold overnight or something to happen to me.
Yeah.
So like I was very wise to that. And I just sort of, as a rebellious teenager, sort of the adolescence rebel in me, woke up to that and was just like, well, I'm just fucking gonna go. And my mom, like, to her credit, wasn't that all over me. So I guess what I'm trying to illustrate is I gave my mom a huge headache as a child. And
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah.
Compared to maybe my parents would disagree, but I think compared to how you describe it, I think I was quite the goody two shoes.
yeah.
Definitely. So speaking of your mom, I had a question for you.
Oh.
You know, people say you marry your mom or you marry your dad, like you marry the. How am I like your mom and how am I not? Do you think you married your mom?
I think like 30%.
Oh, it's a very specific percentage. Have
Like
you thought
30
of
to
this before?
40. Well, under half.
Okay.
Right? So both of you are very reserved and very, like, you just said it, like goody two shoes, kind of like, my mom doesn't know things. Like, my mom found pot in my drawer once and was like, what is this? I don't know. Like, she didn't know. And like, my dad had to tell her, oh, this is pot.
Yeah.
Or maybe she did know, and I don't know. She was just playing stupid. But,
Or she was tricking you to make you think she didn't know.
No, because like my dad was like, what is this? And like any kid, I was just like, oh, I'm holding it.
Yeah, I never did that.
Mom, I wasn't holding it. So, but no, you both are very, very kind. Like in your core, you're very kind. My mom is like probably the nicest or one of the nicest human beings I've ever known. Like I can't imagine my mom having a beef with anybody.
Right.
No one. And that is sort of how you are. We touched on it in the Past Selves episode. I was like, I sort of broke you out of your shell.
Yep.
And, you know, I have a feeling that my dad did sort of the same thing for my mom. And, you know, and that comes with, not that you were sheltered as a child, you were just...
That was just how I was.
You were reserved, right? And I think that's where it comes to my mom. It's the same thing. And both of you, at least my mom does more than you, but both of you like to knit and shit, like, or like crochet.
Well, she tried to teach me how to knit years ago, and I never kept up with it.
Okay. Well,
should I take up knitting again?
No, I mean, if you want. But like, you're both
It's probably just a matter of time during the quarantine.
Yeah. Like, I feel like there are individuals out there that are parents, and obviously this doesn't apply to anybody that we know. But I know of some people that are parents that just don't have their family and their children at the forefront of what's important to them. Like there are some people out there that are like, oh, I need to work on this project, whether it's like building a car or like making a goal to get somewhere or to go on a cruise or something superficial. They hold that, it seems ostensibly, higher than they do their family.
I don't know if that's true.
What,
I can't think of.
I'm saying there
that
are
we
people
know.
out there. No one that we know.
I guess I just don't want to confuse that with like having your own personal goals and like self-care things.
No. That's not what I mean. I'm saying there are people out there. No one that we know.
Okay.
There are people out there that hold like things and themselves. They're so selfish that they don't care that much about their families
or their different priorities.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, whereas I can see that exists in the world. I just can't think of anybody that we know like that.
You and my mom, your number one priority in your life is your family.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And that's the 30%.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you kind of married your mom a little bit.
I don't think that's impossible. I don't think that's avoidable. I think it's natural that like the number one woman in my case, or in your case, man, in your life is your mom or dad, respectively. And you are influenced, and whether or not you're aware of those influences, you're influenced by those traits, and you sort of seek them. That's why, like, obviously this isn't an absolute rule, but you hear the unfortunate circumstances of like girls that were abused by their dads, they end up or date people that are like just violent. Like,
right. It's a cycle.
Yeah. It's not, again, that doesn't always happen, but that is something that I feel like people are familiar with.
Yeah. Right. Well, in a lot of ways, you're my dad too. So
I feel like I'm your dad in a lot of ways other than the repair
being
aspect.
handy. Yeah. You're not handy.
No.
Yeah, we definitely still need my dad around to help us with stuff like that. But you and my dad are like the same person when you're talking to each other. Like you have your own inside jokes and the same sense of humor, and yeah, you are him in that sense.
Friend of mine, you know what I'm talking about, at work. He's always like, anytime I'm like, oh, I talked to Cindy's dad. Oh, did he tell you a dick joke? And I'm just like, yep.
Oh, guaranteed. Yep.
Guaranteed dick joke in some way. And in fact, I don't want to put this out on the air, but let's just say when I asked for your hand in marriage, there was a dick joke that preceded that.
Yep,
that
of course there was. Of
broke
course.
the ice. And involved a sock. So
just one.
Yeah, just one sock.
Sorry, Dad.
We love you. So please give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Let's move forward. So we're 2 years, approximately, just about 2 years into parenthood. Is there anything that you have experienced as a mom, now that we're entering like legit toddlerhood, that you were like, yep, totally thought this was how it's going to be?
So you're saying like recently, like now that she's moving into her
We'll talk
twos?
about the whole 2 years, like from the time she was a baby to like infancy, toddlerhood.
Mm-hmm. I think everything since kind of that newborn stage has kind of been what I expected in terms of like just the basic things of like what it's like to play with her and bond with her and like have that connection with her and that sort of thing. The newborn phase, I was like, what the fuck is happening? So many people say that once your child gets into the toddler age, and maybe we're not quite in it enough yet to really appreciate this perspective. So maybe, in a year from now, I'll be walking this back. But I've heard from a lot of parents that the newborn stage feels really hard when you're in it. But then once you get into the toddler years, and even into like teenage years, they say that it's so much harder and you long for the newborn stage when they just like laid there and slept and ate and pooped and that was it. And
2 naps a day.
Yeah, or more, like sleeping every like 2 hours. But like I can understand that, like that's true. You didn't have to worry about them like climbing and falling off of furniture or like it's just a different set. Like at that point we had to worry about her like rolling over in her sleep and like suffocating and like if you swaddled her wrong or whatever. Like and she couldn't communicate her needs like she can now. Like I just was saying to you, I just realized over the last few weeks how much her communication has improved, and I find myself essentially having conversations with her, even though
caveman talk.
Yeah, even though it's not full sentences on her part, it's like she can get enough words across that I understand what she's saying, and she 100% understands every single thing that we say.
Yes.
But yeah, so I guess that the newborn, I've kind of been waiting for that to hit me of like, oh, I long for the newborn stage. Because even now I think about, the idea of having another one, and I'm like, shit, I still don't know if I'm ready to do that again. Like I still remember how hard that was. And maybe that was just the product of our specific circumstances and some of the challenges that we had. But yeah, otherwise, other than the newborn stage, things have been what I had hoped they would be.
So what specifically? So excluding the newborn phase, we'll revisit that in a minute. But when it comes to like infancy to toddlerhood, what about that were you like, oh yeah, like this is exactly how I thought it would be? Because when it comes to, well, we can save that for when we talk about Father's Day. Go ahead. Is there anything that specifically that you were like, yep, saw that coming, and this fits the linear plan that I've had as a mom?
Well, I guess on the like positive feel good side, it's like the things that people told me about, it's going to be the best thing ever. Like when they start reciprocating emotions and feelings, like her saying she loves me, her like wanting to give me a hug or like show me affection is just like the best.
Sorry.
Yeah, she apologizes. Yeah. And it's so hard to discipline her because she's so cute about it right now still. But so that bleeds right into my next point of the things that are maybe not so positive is all the things people tell you about raising a toddler and how like how much they seem to be trying really hard to hurt themselves. Like, and just being defiant, and she's just getting into that like wanting to do everything by herself phase. She wants to do it. Do it. That's how she says she wants to do it herself. Yeah, do it. So she's getting into that independent thing, and I love to see that, and I'm trying to encourage her and empower her to do things independently. But it's also really frustrating because it takes fucking forever to get anything done because she wants to do it herself. So yeah, those are things that I kind of expected to go the way that I had heard they would.
I mean, when it comes to her as a toddler, and we're just really starting to get into it, because I obviously before 2 years old, you're considered a toddler, but I feel like now, I think 2 is a really good benchmark to be like, all right, here we go. Like, this is a trailer for how I feel like shit's going to be
for the next year.
Year. Like, she's going to have stitches somewhere, and not because of us.
It's coming. Yep. The injuries are coming.
Shit she did, which is fine. Like, you kind of want her to have those sort of natural responses and learning experience. Obviously, I don't want her to get her severely injured here, but she's going to get hurt. And, I do think that's something that is, calling back to the thing about, worrying about your child and stuff. I do think that's sort of more encouraged now than it was when we were kids. I don't know that to be sure, obviously, because I wasn't a parent back then. I haven't done any sort of investigation as to how people were encouraged to treat their children back in the 90s. You mean
encouraging them to be more independent and
be
more risky? Yeah. Like not worry. Yeah.
Not risk averse, like sort of encourage.
Yeah.
Again, not encourage injury, but not be like, oh my God.
Right.
Oh, you okay?
Well, that's where the helicopter parent kind of concept has come out of more recent.
Yeah. I feel like now it's more of a, you're fine. Get up. You're okay.
Well, that's what we're trying to do, but it's hard.
But I feel like that's like the overwhelming consensus of parents our age to new children. They're like, don't freak out every time the child falls.
Well, I think that's an old adage. Like,
okay.
I think so. Like the whole they're gonna react to your reaction,
right?
So if they get hurt and you make a big deal out of it, and you're afraid and you're scared and you're panicking, it's gonna make them panic, and it's just gonna inflate the situation. I think that's kind of an older kind of parenting take. But I think people, I think it's hard not to. Like
Right.
it's really hard not to if there's a serious injury.
Oh, yeah, again,
to hide
if
your emotion.
If it's serious, you're going to respond
Mhm.
appropriately. But I'm saying if she like falls off the couch and that's it and bumps her bum. Like yesterday, I'm walking by and she fell on her bum and she started crying.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? Like my legit response was, "What? Get up!" Like,
right. Well, they even say
how many times have you fallen on your ass?
Yeah, right. You're fine.
And you're
yeah.
fine. No,
I know.
Get up.
They even say that the daycare teachers they noticed that when she gets hurt or she falls or whatever, if someone is watching her, if she knows that someone saw her do it, she will cry and she will try to get that person's attention. If they pretend like they didn't see and no one was looking, she just goes about her day like nothing happened. So she's reacting to getting a reaction.
She's trying to
Yes.
elicit a reaction.
So
but
yeah.
no, I was just like, what? Like it wasn't like she was faking. She was legitimately crying. I was just like, what are you doing?
But then she was fine 5 seconds later.
No, of course.
Yeah.
But I was pissed. I was like, how dare you?
She's just working through her emotions and yeah, it's okay.
So now that we're at the approximately 2 year period, and there are mothers that are listening to this, I think it should be noted, and correctly so. Just like anything in human experience, there are mothers out there that are just like, you don't even fucking know what you're in for. Obviously, you can't pinpoint what you think will happen. But is there anything that, reflecting on how your mom raised you, other than like, the making sure you're safe and drilling that into you, and from other people's experiences that you might have, remembered or attached to, is there anything that you are consciously keeping, a close eye on or mind when it comes to the later years of our child? I'm talking like when she's in that teenage year and stuff.
Yeah, I think one of the things that, there's a few things that I think contributed to me being sort of a goody two shoes, and not that I necessarily like expect that of her. Like I'm completely aware that she may not be like I was, and that's okay. But I think trying to keep it just so that she's generally not getting into like really dangerous situations, or like avoiding, really like a downward spiral of bad decisions, like just trying to keep her within like a healthy lifestyle. I think all the time that my family spent together, like we sat down and had dinner together every night. And I know that's becoming less and less common. I know people just schedules are crazy and, shit happens. But I think that's something that was really, that I would like to implement, that I think will help nurture the relationship that we have and keep communication open. My family also did regular like game nights and stuff like that. And I think that's important, just to have a good open relationship with her as parents. And then making sure she has things to occupy herself outside of school, like extracurricular things. Like I really want her to find something that she loves to do and to stick with it. Whatever it is, if it's music, art, sports, whatever, something to keep her occupied.
Crocheting with Nana.
Sure. Yeah. Whatever she likes. But just, I think having structure and having something that she's passionate about and understands what it means to work hard for, and that gives her rewarding experiences and like teamwork and all that kind of stuff. So I really hope that we can, start her off on the right foot when it comes to that. But I think those are some of the things that I mean, and again, I don't know how things are actually going to go, but
here.
Like,
let's go far.
Oh
Let's
boy.
talk about the things that people don't necessarily want to talk about. So like,
you were bored by my answer.
well, it was, look, I love you, but that's very Miss America, what you said. Like, obviously, like.
Well, it's true. That's how my childhood was. That's what I'm saying. I recognize that it might not go that way.
I totally get it. And those aren't bad answers, but like they're not controversial. I'm talking about like the controversial shit. Like, for instance, I know how I would react if I found weed on her or something.
That's why I'm just going to leave that to you.
Age 16. Like,
well, because I don't know how to react, because I never did that. I was never that teenager who did those sorts of things. So like I don't even have like a model to like look to how like my parents never had to deal with that with me, so I don't even have some like a baseline to say I would do it that way or I would do it a different way. Okay. I don't even have that experience.
That's fair. So you're just gonna say you handle this.
Yeah, but the way you're looking at me right now makes me nervous to do
We can save that for the Father's Day. But like, you know, when it comes to, I think it's important and obviously I don't have this type of relationship because I'm not a female and, you know, whatever. Like the whole dating thing, the last person she's going to really want to talk to about it is me. Mm-hmm. She's going to want to talk to you about it. How do you prepare yourself for that as a mom?
I think could be a whole episode about.
Well, let's just give like a brief trailer then. Like seriously, what do you do? How did your mom handle it for you?
Well, my dating life was pretty boring because I dated the same person all through high school.
Right.
And then I dated you and then we got married. So there wasn't a ton of like, my parents never had to worry about me like going out with a bunch of different guys or like being promiscuous or like
being with the same guy, although that does offer some sort of stability in high school. Mm-hmm. I don't know, you had to have, obviously there were like high school fights, there were like high school tiffs and whatnot. Mm-hmm. That when you look back it's so stupid, but
yeah.
Like,
yeah, I think...
Did your mom take that seriously at the time?
Yeah, absolutely.
Again, I should rephrase that. We're reflecting on these problems and saying, so dumb, like so fucking
but at the
stupid.
time, it was the end of the world.
Right. So your mom reciprocated that sort of response? Okay.
Yes.
And you think that's important?
So this does connect to my Miss America answer of a general foundation of trust and communication.
I wasn't hating on you.
I know, but I'm just saying that contributed, I think, to all of these other things that you're talking about. Because I did feel comfortable talking to my parents, my mom especially, about stuff like this. And we had a pretty open relationship when it came to that kind of thing. But I think there was also, I didn't have to talk to her about everything. It was like I came to her on my own terms when there was a situation like that. But I had a lot of freedom in that my parents trusted me. And so I was like, they trusted my boyfriend too. And so like, I don't like, what question are you asking me? Like,
I guess like, is that something that you're going to handle in the same way with our daughter?
I hope so. Yeah. I think it all depends on what that foundation is and what we feel comfortable with, like what boundaries we feel like she can respect.
Right.
And if she's like you and she doesn't, and she's out, I'm saying you as a teenager,
right.
And she's super rebellious, and the more boundaries we put on her, the harder she pushes back. Like, I don't know how I'm going to handle that because, again, I have no baseline. I have no model for dealing with that kind of behavior. So I'm going to be completely flying by the seat of my pants. Like, I have no idea.
You got to have something they want to take away. That's the thing. Like, my parents didn't have anything that they held that I couldn't just get elsewhere. You know what I mean?
So you were smarter? You were too smart?
No. So I would never say that.
No, I mean like you were outsmarting them. Like they thought they were taking something away from you, but you like had another way to get it.
We're taking away your PlayStation 2. I'm just going to go to my friend's house and play.
That's what I mean. So like you
we're taking away your car. I'm just going to have my friend pick me up. Like, what are you going to do?
You had a workaround for every punishment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at that age of like 15, 16, when like my friends can drive and shit.
Well, I got grounded. Like that happened.
I've never been grounded in my life. I
got grounded a lot.
Because my response was, I'm just going to leave.
See, I didn't. I've never snuck out ever.
I was an asshole as a teenager. But like, that's not, to me, at least I didn't. It's not sneaking out because I gave the courtesy, I guess you could say, of saying, I'm leaving.
They knew what they were getting into.
And they're like, no, you're not. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, I don't remember.
Dad,
so we're talking about that. I'm like,
going to do?
I don't remember how my parents got me to be so afraid to sneak out.
You believed in the punishment.
I did. Like, I was like, all right, I'm grounded. Like, I just never thought twice about it.
It was. This is baseless. Like, once you take that step, it's like eating the forbidden fruit. Once you take that step and you're like, you mean I can be grounded and just leave and come back and they're just going to say I'm grounded again and I could just leave
and then come back?
Like, what
were you just grounded for like 4 years straight?
Well, I don't know. Like, they're like, you can't use the phone. And again, this is before.
Right. This
like
is when you had
text
to use the
messages,
landline.
and they're like,
yeah.
so like I think what they did was that, oh, you can't use the internet because I didn't have my own computer.
Right.
So that is something, but I was just, again, at that time, the internet wasn't nearly as important to me.
Well, then you would just go out, probably. If you didn't have anything else to do,
Yeah.
you'd just have a friend come pick you up and you would just leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like think about the amount of time you're using on the internet now with it being like in your pocket and stuff. You're so reliant on it. Back in like, I don't know, 2000, 2002.
Right. What were you doing
like,
on?
we're not,
Yeah.
if anything, I'm using AIM.
You had to change your top 8.
Yeah. Or am I not on MySpace, or I'm like talking to, I don't know, people and changing my AOL profile. Like I'm not doing anything substantial. I'm just whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel very unprepared for the teenage years because
like now if you take a child's phone away, it's fucking war.
it's true. Yeah. Yep. I don't know how
we didn't have that.
I know. For me, I guess it would have been my phone. I didn't even have a TV in my room, so there was like I'd get grounded to my room. I don't know what I did. I read. Like I don't know what
That's
I
what
did.
I'm saying. Like
I don't even remember.
I would just leave.
Yeah.
Like and maybe in that they were like, all right, he's not watching TV. We took the TV away from him, so he's getting outside and getting fresh air. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
But
well, if they took the phone away, and how would I even tell one of my friends to come pick me up?
I remember just riding my bike and showing up at their house. That's what you used to do.
Oh, none of my friends really live that close.
Yeah, like that's as a kid, you just ride your bike somewhere and be like, "Yo, you want to come out and play?"
Yeah, I wouldn't have done that.
Oh,
I
shit.
just I know that I would have just been in even deeper shit when I came home, and I just felt like it wasn't worth it.
Well, not to end on a controversial note, but I already know the answer to this, but is there anything about motherhood that you would like changed or adjusted or anything, or are you Goldilocks with the little bear's porridge, and you're like, this is just right?
I don't know. I think for the most part, yeah, things are pretty good. I mean, I think we have an awesome kid, but I think everybody thinks that about their own child. I think I could do some things differently. There's always things that you could do better. Like,
Of course.
I mean, I feel like I could have done a lot better taking care of myself in the beginning. Like,
okay. That's not necessarily
being more
motherhood,
I
right?
get, but it's how I responded to motherhood. Like
Okay.
I took on a lot of the, like you said before at the very beginning, of how it just seemed like I just caught on and just did things, and like it came super, it came really naturally to me. And I think I was probably harboring a lot of the anxiety and like responsibility and like overwhelming burden that I felt. I could have let go a little bit and been a little bit more forgiving to myself, and like
Shave
not
your
feeling
legs,
so
kid.
much. Yeah, right. God, I should. Yeah, that doesn't happen very often. Sorry.
It's the world we live in.
Yeah, but like I just think I could have not taken so much of the burden and like thought that I knew better. Like I just think because I did prepare and plan and research so much, like I think I just always had the answer, and I feel like it was my responsibility to have the answer. And I don't think that was fair to you in a lot of ways, and I don't think it was fair to myself.
Well, for what it's worth, you're a great mom.
Thank you.
And your mom is also a great mom.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom's a great mom.
That's
so
right.
we have a strong support system full of great moms to sort of help you along the way should you need it, and you're not bashful to ask for help. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, now I'm not.
Right. So look, this has been hopefully reflective for you. This has been a nice little peek inside to motherhood. I'll never understand it. I just won't.
I know.
Like,
It's pretty complicated.
not even gonna fucking attempt to. But look, I'm glad we were able to do this on Mother's Day. So shout out to all the moms out there. You guys are fucking superheroes. Just the mere aspect of being able to squeeze a human being out of you, no matter the method, no matter how it's done, it's fucking phenomenal. And good for you guys to be able to put up with people like me in the household all the time. So For that, at the very least, you and my mom are fucking saints. But so look, again, if you like what you've heard, please subscribe to us. We're on Apple Podcasts, we're on Spotify, Google Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you get your podcast fix from. And again, if it's some sort of rating system, feel free to give us 5 stars and a quick review. It helps us out a ton. We're trying to branch out to as many people as possible, people with similar experience or people that just want to hear a married couple banter about pretty much nothing. But if you want to interact with us, feel free to do so. Like I said, I primarily run the Twitter at She's Napping Pod. Cindy does the Facebook, facebook.com/while she's napping. And if you want to email us,
whileshe'snapping@gmail.com.
hit us up, please. And next week, are we going to do the Rhode Island episode?
I'm not sure.
All right.
I don't know.
We'll keep that in the back pocket for now.
Hey, if you're a parent of teenagers and you think we sound like we have no clue whatsoever.
You're right.
Yeah. Well, but tell us, give us some insight. Let us know what to expect.
Please. Yes. And especially if you have a teenager that
was like you,
does not trust, has been enlightened to grounding doesn't exist.
Yeah. Don't let your teenagers listen to this episode.
How do you remedy someone like me?
Yeah.
But until next time, take it easy.
Bye, everybody.